Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier, and thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate it. I like this image that I saw on Twitter. It's from Verge. The Coachella 2015 lineup is up, and the title says, which means it's time to obsess over poster font sizes. I just liked the mood it captured. It reminded me of my teenagers over Christmas and New Year. Whenever I sort of intercepted them, I thought I was intercepting them in between such a function as this image shows. Going back to DeLillo, and I'm still finishing up White Noise, which I think is the last book of his for me that I hadn't read. But this goes back to a book called Point Omega. We're a crowd, a swarm, we think in groups, travel in armies, armies carry the gene for self-destruction. One bomb is never enough, the blur of technology. This is where the oracles plot their wars, because now comes the introversion. Father Teilhard knew this, the Omega point, a leap out of our biology. Ask yourself this question: do we have to be human forever? Consciousness is exhausted, back now to inorganic matter. This is what we want. We want to be stones in a field. Derek Pauls tweeted, being a lover of dolphins, this is such a special picture for me, and it's a beautiful one. And we met dolphins on the way to Wasini Island 1,102 days ago, and I'll put up the video for that. But not, sadly, on our last visit over Christmas, when the ocean was quite choppy. However, on our visit to Wasini Island, where you go to this other island where the dolphins are meant to be, and there's this incredible coral, we found a turtle and we followed it just above at the sort of sea level as the turtle was on the ground level. And Tanner and I followed it around, and it was most enjoyable. It looks like a beetle, has the same spots as a leopard, in point of fact, the one we saw. Ali, who was our navigator, I'll put up his photograph, and he was good company, as were the captain and the snorkeling man. So we had a fantastic time, and really it is a marvellous place to visit. Otherworldly, extremely gracious. You get served the Swahili lunch, fresh crab, lemon, some rice, some very hot concoction, I don't know what it was delicious, and so graciously served by this man. It really was a wonderful experience. Political reflections. Well, obviously everyone's attention has been caught by this Charlie Hebdo incident. Very few newspapers have actually alerted their readers to the fact that this was the last tweet, meilleur vœu au fait, that they issued. And if you look at the sequence and timing, I think there was some kind of internal conversation going on, internal and external, just looking at the sequencing. But this was the last tweet that came out of them. Obviously, there's so many videos and shocking images. One was from Jim Scuto. Shocking video of attack underway, gunman in Paris execute police officer. I'll put up that image. And then Charles Lister as well, showing another image of gunmen with automatic rifles during this attack. Hashtag Charlie Hebdo, hashtag Je suis Charlie, hashtag Paris shooting. The Independent is saying what took place at the offices of Charlie Hebdo was a mission of targeted assassinations carried out by proficient killers armed with Kalashnikovs for urban guerrilla fighting. However, the fact that they had acquired automatic rifles, carried out their plan efficiently, and managed to get away, which is pretty astonishing when you think about it, shows a level of organization not usually seen among lone wolves. Some reports suggest that an attacker was also carrying a rocket-propelled grenade launcher. Early this morning I tweeted, every fanatic assumes God cannot take a joke or a cartoon. The French police have named 2 brothers suspecting of carrying out the attack. I'll put up the image that came up with Al Jazeera. And what was interesting is one of the three attackers has actually given themselves in. I concluded by saying, in a world of more than 7 billion souls, the fat tail, i.e. those people at the very extremity, people like this who are prepared to do this kind of thing, is actually, optically it might be a very small percentage, but in actual numbers it becomes quite a big number. I'll also put up a screen grab from an ISIS propaganda video showing the ISIS killer known as Jihadi John, who's another figure of this type. And my conclusion is this is more a criminal thing than anything else. But really, this is something that we were going to expect. For lots of die-hard, dead-enders types were facilitated to Syria out of Europe. They're now coming back, evidently. Moving on, those on the receiving end of Barack Obama's 21st century oil and currency warfare are all beating a path to Beijing. As I've said previously, it's been a very 21st century shock and awe that President Obama has launched, subtle, skilled, hard-nosed exponent as he is of currency and now oil warfare. The plan to undercut oil was exquisitely constructed and executed. Venezuela, of course, is very much in the crosshairs, and I noticed Telesur TV tweeting a photograph of Nicolas Maduro in China, and then Maduro's own Twitter handle tweeting a photograph of him with Xi Jinping at the presidential palace. I like these photographs from kickingpictures.com. This is of the Nobel Prize winner Kailash Satyarthi comforting Malala Yousafzai, who burst into tears upon seeing the blood-stained school uniform she wore the day she was attacked by the Taliban on display in Oslo. Satyarthi rushed to console his fellow winner, repeating, "You are so brave, you are so brave," and indeed she is. I like this photograph as well, a boy from Honduras watching a movie at a detention facility run by the US Border Patrol in McAllen, Texas. Pretty haunting. Saudi king's health puts prince who hunted Al-Qaeda in the spotlight. He knows how to run a very complex organization, Jordan, who last met Prince Salman in March 2013, said by phone from Dallas. He knows how to deal with more than one crisis or problem at a time, and he knows how to deal with terrorists and subversive threats in a firm manner. King Abdullah, born in 1924, has ruled Saudi Arabia since 2005. His illness has brought to the fore speculation about succession in the biggest Arab economy, while the transfer of power to Prince Salman, 79, is clear. What happens next is less certain, putting the monarchy in uncharted territory at a key time in its modern history. We are very close to a point in time when the kingdom will go into an unprecedented phase of transition. If this state that's carrying the region runs into internal problems, then that has great implications for the entire region, that's true. They're in a time of falling oil prices. Business confidence is already probably less than it would be otherwise. If you have an uncertain succession, that just doubles business worries about government spending yet. Moments of transition always pose moments of high risk. Prince Salman, of course, is, I think, extremely effective and probably a very good choice at this transition moment, interregnum moment. I found out he's got a Twitter handle, and I found two photographs. Crown Prince Salman patronizing the graduation ceremony of the 87th course of cadets of King Faisal Air College, and then on December the 9th, on behalf of the King, the Crown Prince heads the Saudi Arabian delegation participating in the 35th GCC summit in Doha. According to the Mail Online, Al-Qaeda is teaching its fighters how to make invisibility cloaks. Couldn't make this up sometimes. Air Asia's flight, the first pictures are released of plane wreckage under the water. Coming to the international markets, I agree with this point from Sir Martin Sorrell of WPP. In a world of uncertainty, there's a high probability that for global business 2015 will be the year of the G2. Currency markets Euro 118.24 got to 118.02, which was the strongest level for the dollar since January 2006. Dollar index 92.16. Japanese yen a little bit softer, 119.70. Swissy 101.60. Pound 150.84 now. Aussie 0.8109. Touched 0.8033 yesterday, which was the weakest since July 09. India rupee 63.065. South Korean 110.96.95. A little bit of a bounce in these higher beta currencies. Rial 268.29. Egyptian pound 715.22. And the rand 11.68. I'll put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index. My target remains 100. The Bloomberg dollar spot index, highest close in data going back to 2004. Euro dollar 118.24 last. I'll put up a 3-month chart looking for 1. On the 29th of September, I wrote inflation in the Eurozone, which has its nose barely above zero at 0.4%, could go negative in the next 12 months. And we learned yesterday from EU Eurostat that annual inflation is down to negative 2.2% in December. Destination Lux tweeted 10 of the most amazing hotel penthouses, and this one is of one in the Kiragan Palace, a former Ottoman palace built out of wood and marble in the latter half of the 17th century, and now it stands as rebuilt and finished in marble as a luxury hotel. The Sultan's Suite is a direct homage to its opulent past, one of the largest suites in Europe. The gilded suite is outfitted with a handmade marble hammam, private steam room and rain shower, a full kitchen, a guest room with a clawfoot Devon bathtub, decadent chandeliers, period furniture, fine art, and more. The Siragan guest list often features the likes of royals, successful Hollywood actors, and fashion designers. Look pretty marvelous. Crude oil, I'll put up a 5-day chart, bit of a bounce here, $48.85. Climbed as high as $49.65, and volumes traded were 30% above the 100-day average. I've said it before, but I said it in October, markets overshoot, crude oil does it big time. I don't think we've based out yet. I think we're going to have another lurch lower. Crude oil, I'll put up a 6-month chart, and I think we're going to see 40, if not below. Gold, a little bit off. I'll put up a 6-month chart. It's had a safe haven bid. Not convinced myself. Econ Bizfin tweeted, "We will need to produce more food in the next 40 years than in the previous 10,000 combined." That got me thinking. Coming to sub-Saharan Africa, Islamic extremism has 2 global centers of gravity, one in the Arab Middle East, but the other is in sub-Saharan Africa, says researcher Ron Boyd Macmillan. Topping the list of Christians confirmed to have been killed for faith-related reasons was Nigeria, 2,484, and the Central African Republic at 1,088, with Syria and Iraq at 271 and 60. So, goodness. The governor of Congo's mining province loses party post in rift with President Moji Katumbi. The powerful governor of the DRC's copper-producing Katanga province has been removed as regional head of the ruling party, political sources said, highlighting a deepening rift with President Joseph Kabila. Joseph Kabila wants to obviously go for a 3rd term. Katumbi had long been considered a pillar of Kabila's Katanga-centered power base, but he made a speech in Katanga late last month that was seen as a thinly veiled attack on Kabila, who has been in power since 2001. Couching his criticism in football references, Katumbi urged his supporters to challenge Kabila's right to score a 3rd penalty against Congo. That is, go for a 3rd term. I wrote about this on the 10th of November in the aftermath of Ouagadougou, when I called my piece Ouagadougou's Signal to Sub-Saharan Africa, and I said the tipping point for that accelerated sequence of events in Ouagadougou was President Compaore's stacking of parliament in order to extend the presidential term limit. There are plenty of African presidents while seeking to pull off the same magic trick, and events in Ouagadougou have surely put them on notice. So I think Kabila's on notice, but he seems to be determined down that path. Meet the man who wanted to rule the Gambia is a headline in BuzzFeed in a world peppered with eccentric dictators. Jammeh stands apart, his claim to have cured AIDS and the Ebola virus, and rules over a small West African country poor in resources and consistently ranked by the United Nations as one of the least developed countries on earth. While the FBI searched Jier's home, they found a document titled Gambia Reborn, the Charter for Transition from Dictatorship to Democracy and Development, as well as handwritten notes asking questions like, do you have a budget? What is the transition period for return to civilian rule? Also taken from his home, a spreadsheet documenting the logistics of the plan, their budget just under $221,000. South Africa's all-share dipped 0.75% yesterday. It's down 1.61% so far this year. Dollar rand pretty solid and steady here, 11.6864. But I think it's headed to 12. Egyptian pound, 7.15 on the official rate. Egyptian stock market down last trading session 2.35%. It's down 1.39% year to date. Nigerian all share, that has slumped. It's now down 10.07% this year. Fell 4.17%. That's two falls of more than 4% in a row. Their 2023 Eurobond is now trading at a yield of 7.67, which is interesting, nearly 8%. On the 10th of November, I wrote about the markets in Africa, and I said the Naira and the all-share index have been wagadooged by the collapse in the price of oil. On November the 19th, I tweeted the currency heads to 200. The central bank does not have the firepower, although they've been very smart. They've dried up liquidity in the interbank market to try and defend the currency that way, but it's not going to work. And then on the 24th of November, I wrote Nigeria in the eye of the storm. I can hear the echo of folks asking what went wrong. It was only earlier this year that Nigeria's economy was calculated to have surpassed South Africa's as the largest on the continent after Nigeria's GDP was rebased to $488 billion for 2013, compared to the World Bank's 2012 GDP figures of $384.3 billion for South Africa. The game changer for Nigeria has been the free fall in the price of crude oil. Nigeria is collateral damage in a red-hot crude oil and geopolitical war, where the US and Saudi Arabia have tipped the oil markets into surplus in order to exert enormous pressure on Russia in particular, amongst others. Boko Haram has become Africa's ISIS. This is Peter Pham in the Hill blog. The new year is off to a great start for the militant group Boko Haram, and much less so for Nigeria and the international community as a whole. Brutal insurgents continue to carve out what has in effect become Africa's ISIS. It is high time the US and its allies give this burgeoning problem the attention it deserves. So it's going to be very interesting how this plays out. In early September, the group shot down a Nigerian Air Force Dassault Dornier Alpha attack jet, a feat that ISIS fighters have not yet succeeded in doing. More importantly, as terrorism analyst Jakob Zen has pointed out, Boko Haram's videos show a troubling convergence between the Nigerian militants and their ISIS counterparts, not only in terms of symbolism and ideology, but also insurgency doctrine. The Zambian kwacha retreated for a third day, weakening 0.3% to 655.11 per dollar. That extended 2015's losses to 2.5%, the biggest slide at the turn of the year since the first of 2009. This is the uncertainty around the election, which is due on Jan 20, plus a copper price which is at 4-year lows. Ghana Stock Exchange eased 0.1% yesterday. I like this photograph of a dusty Gulu road that the Daily Monitor tweeted, and I'll put that up. Mozambique's Renamo party says it will not take up parliament seats. We will not take our seats in parliament, which is due to be sworn in on Jan 12. Our party and president decided that we will not take part in a farce. The move is sure to stoke political tensions in the poor but mineral-rich country, which has seen sporadic flare-ups of fighting between Renamo and government forces since the end of the civil war in 1992. Renamo won 89 of the 250 seats in Mozambique's parliament. Frelimo secured 144. Tensions are running high in Mozambique. On that note, I've got a photograph of Maputo evening that I took last year, 222 days ago. Mozambique must complete contract negotiations for the production of liquefied natural gas and also fast-track key structural reforms to maintain strong economic growth. That's the IMF. IMF forecasting Mozambique will grow 7.5% in 2014 from 7% the previous year. The 2014 forecast is down from the previous projection of 8%. The Treasury here in Kenya has agreed to bail out Mumias Sugar. Henry Rotich said on Wednesday it held meetings with the board and management to see how the troubled miller could be resuscitated. I'll put up a link for Mumias Sugar share price data. Uchumi Supermarkets is saying they will use proceeds from its oversubscribed rights issue to open 14 new branches in the next 1 year. I'll also put up a link for Uchumi. That share price has been recovering. I'll come back to that in a minute. Kenya shilling at a fresh 2011 low above 91. Nairobi all share eased 0.04% yesterday. It's down 0.67% year to date. NSE 20 is down 0.2% year to date, and it's been up in the last two sessions. Business Daily yesterday had a headline: capital gains tax hits trading as KRA stands firm. The article said the implementation of the capital gains tax on share transactions has become controversial as stockbrokers claim that they are not legally obligated to collect the levy on behalf of the taxman. The KRA, however, sought to turn the heat on the brokers Tuesday by warning that they will be liable for any taxes that they failed to collect since the tax became effective on January 2nd. I said this is clearly not helpful for sentiment. I accept the optics of 5% around the CGT means the tax is actually set very low, but the issue is around sentiment. I think to expect stockbrokers to morph into tax collection agents is simply not workable. Stockbrokers do not have 360-degree visibility on their client portfolios, so I am concerned that the introduction of the CGT is designed for failure. And I, for one, would suggest a step back at this moment. Querying sentiment carries spillover and contagion risks. I wrote yesterday global markets have been like rabbits caught in the headlights watching the oil price crash below $50. That was yesterday. Dollar, I said, is trading real muscular. Shilling is at a November 2011 low. Yesterday we had a strong performance in the agri sector. Unga, which posted a very strong gain last year, up 5.696%. EGAD's up 5.031%. It's the only coffee play at the NSC. Bear in mind, coffee prices, leading commodity performer, up about 31% last year. Safaricom, most actively traded, closed at 13.90 unchanged. Record high of 15 sat on December the 9th. That's the near-term objective. Uchumi on the rise, up 0.487% yesterday, has rallied 14.444% above its rights issue price. NIC Bank was a big story yesterday, rallied 3.4188%, and that was after Maurice Aron tweeted alert reports of NIC CBA merger talks, and then Nairobi Tech Blog saying Mshwari could potentially be hived out as a standalone business to chart its own course. This encouraged the share price higher. Kenya Power has been on a winning sequence this year, closed 1.59% high yesterday, has rallied 10.763% since the start of the year. And the reason was established yesterday when the Energy Secretary Davies Churcher said, "We're getting a $500 million loan from the World Bank to clear loans held by Kenya Power so that we can lower the interest cost." Buyers have rallied the price in 2015 because of that, I think. EABL closed a little bit lighter at 305. 300 will be strong buy-side support. Remember, if you want to track the stock market, just register on rich.co.ke, get a password. It's free. And then from there, click on the link, Rich Live. Trading hours 9:30 Kenya time to 3 in the afternoon, and then you can just plug in and watch the market play out if you wish. Once again, thank you for stopping by.